Hey, hey, fam. I hope y'all are doing well. I'm so excited for today's conversation with the Felicia Walker. Oh, my goodness. As y'all know, I like to get right in and introduce my guests based on what they have to share about themselves. And Felicia writes, I'm a true multi-hyphenate in the beauty space. I'm a skincare educator, author, journalist, product formulator, and industry architect, filling the white space and gaps the industry forgot. I'm on a mission to make skincare literacy the new standard, and job number one is mom, doing the best to raise a critical thinker in the age of hot takes. I love that.
The big one.
So good. Welcome to Live Stories.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this. This is the highlight of my day.
Oh, I'm so humbled and grateful for your presence. Oh no, I'm talking in this voice. No, I just know it's going to be a good conversation. Just what I just know about you and your energy. You've always been just a conscious and intentional sharer. So I want to get into our conversation first. You talk, and I think you had a North Star in your identity. Talk a little bit about what you believe your identity is now, and whether or not it's evolved from your previous marriage, your divorce, and now your new marriage.
I would say that my identity for me, it feels a bit like a sliding scale. It evolved over time. And I think we were speaking prior about like meeting the moment. Sometimes I feel like the moment meets me, where I always say my superpower is like being still. And if I'm not sure what I need to do,
Mhm.
feel like I can always be still and it comes to me, and I'm very comfortable with that. So in terms of my identity evolving, I've been comfortable with just kind of sitting with and through whatever changes my life has kind of gone through as a result of divorce and remarrying, and just letting it come to me to clarity on like what this next chapter of my life looks like. I don't I know that I didn't have any kind of clear, I like these like very strict parameters, because there are certain things that you're still figuring out and learning about yourself. And I feel whether it's beauty, motherhood, sisterhood, our industry, I'm forever a student and forever learning. So I apply that even to myself, and I definitely give that space and opportunity to just learn and listen and grow.
I love, love, love that. On sliding scale, meeting the moment, stillness. That's something I struggle with because I 100% am a fixer, or I trying to create the moment versus just letting the moment happen. So I need to take some pointers from you on because I feel like, for me, when I think about my identity, I've always attached it to the title or the role I've carried. And for many times it's been attached to what I do for a living or the role I'm playing, and meeting that with who I believe that role needs me to be versus, taking a step back. And numero uno is I am a child of God, and approaching sometimes that understanding and meeting the moment with that understanding is definitely something that I struggle with.
Hmm.
But as I continue to evolve as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, as a mother, as a friend, I recognize that if I'm not whole, if I'm not true to my inner self and my inner being, then people are not going to I'm not going to meet the moment in the right way, because
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like my identity wavers because I never really had a sound foundation growing up in seeing how to be or how to show up, right? And so I think for we as Black women, I think the identity thing a lot more now is being said about, knowing who you are and, your worth and your value. But like growing up, I don't know if I even had, would you say you had like an example of what that should be? Did you say you get the stillness from your mom or anyone, or did you just kind of become that?
So when you say an example of what specifically are you referring to? Did I have an example of what?
Of the stillness that you saw that you now use as you navigate different situations?
Know if I had direct examples of it. Honestly,
Mhm.
I think stillness is something I wish I can say that it's this very strategic thing. I think I've learned it just through exhaustion,
Oh,
to bang your head trying to figure things out. And what I've realized is that if I do just get still, the things they find its way to me. And I often find that it finds its way to me in ways I would not have even known how to act
mhm.
the con to even place together the words to say the things. Honestly, I think stillness has come from exhaustion of trying to be a fixer, a pleaser, not even so much a pleaser, but a fixer, a doer, a narrating or curating everything that needs to happen. And some like it is important to know your craft and work hard and do the things, but there are sometimes you have to say like you've done what you could do, like you've done all you can. It's like, you know what, let me just give this time to breathe, like let the thing cook. And so that's something that that like just exhaustion kind of got me to. I got to that. And like, you know what? So I really tap into that a lot now when something is just overwhelming. I'm like, you know what? Let's let this cook a minute. It can even be an email. If someone sends me something, if I don't have a response right away, I know it's because something needs to cook and I just let it do that. And I feel I know that I do that in many aspects of my life. I was saying like, you know, bought a new home and I was like I didn't want to come in and do this and do that and do that. I wanted like the house to tell me what it needed. I wanted to live it and then let it kind of come to me and figure out what was needed versus like this is my big idea and this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And over time it's interesting what it looks like versus what I thought it would. So I've become very comfortable with letting things cook and play out.
Love that. Love that. I would say that's called wisdom.
Is it wisdom?
I don't
I
know, making it up.
I
So, taking it back to divorce, what would you say you understood marriage was before you entered into marriage your first go around?
You know what's really interesting is I was out the other night and someone asked me a similar question. I pondered it for a while and I really couldn't come up with an answer. And they were like, surely you've been asked this, you know, over the time. And I'm like, I probably have been, but I think because I'm in my mind, it's not even like a decade removed, but it's just still so far removed in my mind that that kind of emotional remembering, thank God, like it's just, I feel like it's in a different place. But I think when I first thought of marriage, I really just thought of it as people who love each other coming together and having a life together. But even saying that, there are so many like headings and subheadings and Roman numerals and so much just like that little statement. Two people
Yeah.
yeah, who love each other, coming together and building a life together. There's a lot that comes with that. So all of those subheadings and part ones and twos and Roman numerals, those pieces I don't think I thought about. And honestly, I didn't have the experience to really know what that would entail. It's like when people say, like, oh, having kids, it's a lot of work. You're like, a lot of work. There's so much within that sentence of a lot of think, well, I know that what I thought of marriage at that time was very simplified. And
Mhm.
that now I look at it and it's all of the complexities, and I'm aware of all of those, you know, subheadings and Roman numerals and all of those breakdowns. So I feel like I have a different clarity and expectation of what marriage is.
That's so good. No, it makes complete self because and I got married younger, so I wouldn't even say I had expectations except for what I saw in culture or movies or music. I didn't have a firm understanding of myself,
Mm-hmm.
going back to identity, but I also didn't have a firm understanding of an expectation of another.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a sub of that is I expected that other person to make me happy, which we already know that's a recipe for disaster, right? So I would say my come from was, well, I'm unhappy in these areas and a husband will fix it.
Right. God.
So someone should have been like, no, boo boo, happiness comes from you. Happiness comes from yourself. That is a lot to put on someone else.
Yes, it is.
And so for me, that's, I think, one of the big lessons that I learned in my divorce was there were some inner things I needed to figure out first.
Mm-hmm.
Before I went into this forever thing, because I also didn't realize, like, you say forever. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I was like forever for real, for real. Like forever, ever, like,
Right.
maybe. Would you say that you understood like forever was forever?
Did. I did. 'Cause I don't think I went into it feeling like this is a thing that you get out of. So I think, my idea of marriage, I think, was very simple, and no shade to me. Like, I just knew what I knew of it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Experience. I think I was like 30, 31. So I feel like that's a 10-year-old adult. At 21, you become adult. So at 30, you've been an adult 10 years, 30 years. So I think at that time, I just knew what I knew, and it was a very simple understanding of what marriage is. And plenty of people get married at that age with a simple understanding and make it last forever. And some people get married at that age with a simple understanding and they are not able to make it last forever.
Right.
This
So
is,
that's the subs and the nuance and the texture, right? That we don't really go into except for just at the surface level.
yeah.
So you got married at 30, 31. How long were you married in your first marriage?
I believe 15 years. I should know this number. I believe 15.
Mhm.
It also is a little bit foggy for me because our divorce process was really long.
Mhm.
If it was a factor, so I think that's why things are foggy sometimes. But I think
Mhm.
it was 15 years, and our the divorce process was close to 4 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
pretty lengthy.
That is very lengthy. So in the marriage, what were some signs that you were like, something ain't right?
If I had to think back again, I would go back to the inexperience that I believe I had in
Mhm.
understanding of marriage. I have to, at this point, accept a lot of accountability and kind of acknowledge that my expectations were not aligned the way that they should have been. And I think that I again just had a very limited and kind of
Yeah.
simplified understanding of what marriage is, and what marriage can be. And I was actually having this conversation with someone else about, like, when I think when two people, especially when you're young and comes together and you're married, you get married there, and if you've never like really lived together, all of these things, there are gonna be these shakeups. Like, oh my God, what is this? There are all these different things that's now fresh and new to you, and that's with anything new. A new
Mhm.
job, you move to a new city, new country, anything new is gonna be like, wow,
Mhm.
completely natural and normal. After that, I think you need two willing parties that are saying, you know what, these are the things, and we have the desire, the commitment, the energy to work on improving these things or changing whatever changes, a modification, tweaks, however you want to name it, that you have two willing parties that are able to do that. And I think at the end of the day, our desires and abilities just didn't line up to be able to make it to the longevity.
What were would you say, some of those expectations, would you say?
Expectations. That is an interesting one because it's funny, I found a diary, a journal. I'm a big journal. Do you journal?
I journal sometimes, but not like as often as every day.
You know what I tell people is that, like, you should have different kinds of journals because
Mhm.
their consistency. So I have one that's like a fill in the blank. I have one that's just like all free handed. I have one that's
Mhm.
journal where it's almost like part scrapbooking. And so over time it all gets collected but in different ways, and it helps you kind of tap into what you're in the mood for. So if you're in the mood for long form, do the long form. If not, you just want to like download the data, fill in the blanks. It's almost like Mad Libs. And I found a journal from like 25 years ago, and I was just blown away at the things that I thought were like important or monumental, and things that I was like obsessing over. I say that to say that that makes me think back to my expectations of what I thought like marriage to be and how I thought things were supposed to go, but it was really based on having very little, again, real world experience, no examples, a couple of my friends who were all kind of getting married around the same time, but there really was just no experience and very, very little understanding, very little understanding. I just, even though I was a little older, I still feel like, wow, you were so young, and
Mhm.
things you didn't know and what you thought things were supposed to be like, baby, that just wasn't even it. Just I don't, and I worked in an environment, everyone was getting married and you're seeing all these things, but I just feel like when people say to you about like having a baby, these are the things that really, really go on. You're not having those conversations. The same thing with marriage. A friend about a hysterectomy that she had and the things that she's dealing with after, because no one really said this is what happens when you have a hysterectomy. It's like, okay, you're going to have it, it's going to relieve all these things, but again, those subheadings and Roman numerals, no one tells you about. You don't know. And it's not, I'm not saying it is shade, because I often say like the only way through stuff is through stuff. So I would not have even really known this. Was it anybody's responsibility to tell me? I don't know. Was it my responsibility to research and learn? I don't know. But I just genuinely did not know better, and I didn't know certain things.
Yeah, same, same. I got married, I would say 27.
20,
I got married at 27. Your brain doesn't actually finish growing. I think they say 25.
yeah.
So at 27, I mean, I was a child.
And who you think you want to be and what you think is important and what you think matters. I was thinking back to someone I dated in my 20s and like what I thought this guy meant and what that would mean for me in my life. Like, this is not the same person, by the way.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
back and I'm just like, girl, you are so delusional. But it's just like you didn't know any better. So I love that we're at a point where we can have more open conversations about all of the things about menopause, perimenopause, divorce, marriage, all of these things, because I don't think those conversations were openly happening. What happens to your body when you have a hysterectomy? What your sex life is like after that? Like, these are things that people are not talking about openly. And then you're in it and you're like, oh my God, what is this?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I would also say as I was exploring, okay, in the marriage, I also don't think I had like people I was allowed in my life
Mm,
to for me to be able, and we talk, everyone is like, it's safe, it's a safe space. All this conversation is cute now, but we never had the understanding or the understanding that that was a need
yeah.
back then. And I'm saying
Yeah.
back then like it was so long ago, but I think with social media, everything is so lightning speed now. I didn't allow individuals to even know me or my wants in a way that if I had even have said some of my delulu things, for them to feel safe to check me on, actually, that's not important. What about that?
Yeah,
Right.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. And I can see like you not feeling comfortable to say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. Like, can you help me with this? I don't even think that we felt completely comfortable to be able to ask those questions and share those concerns.
That, and I thought I was a know-it-all. I thought I'd arrived. I thought I already knew me. And whew, that, well, we talked about identity and the sliding scale, and one day I was one person and the other day I was another person.
Hmm.
In your recollection, do you remember a specific time where it was like, oh, it's a wrap for this marriage, like the knowing, would you say?
Hmm. I think it's a process. I
Hmm.
think it's a build up. But sometimes for some people it can be like this one moment, and sometimes it's the moments that lead to the thing.
Hmm.
I never wanted, yeah, I didn't start the thing to dissolve the thing, so it wasn't a thing that I ever really wanted. I do know that I got to a point where I felt like it wasn't necessarily a list, but just for, the sake of today, if there was a list of things that you would need to do or try to do or work through before deciding that dissolving is the final thing. I
Hmm.
knew that I had gone through all of those steps many times over, felt like I had reached a point where I could stand before God and say, yep, I definitely did what I could, and that I think we have done what we could. Like, we have reached that point, because it is kind of a we thing where it's like, you know what, yeah, we are not going to be able to make this thing happen. And here's what I've tried and what I've tried. And I felt I was at a point where I felt very comfortable with that, that knowing.
So you both knew, like, okay, sounding like that's what you're saying. Like you both knew that, like, okay, we've given it our best shot. Uncoupling and going our separate ways is the best.
Well, I wouldn't uncoupling is a very conscious, kind of new.
Mm,
I know that I knew that we couldn't, but I can't
mhm,
for what the other side would there. When I
gotcha.
initially I meant like we could not make the thing work based
Gotcha.
I have to give and what I have done. I knew that we wouldn't be able to based on all the things I believe that would help to resolve. I'd done those things many times over and I was just like, yeah, we can't, this is not going to happen. Yeah.
Well, did you guys do marriage counseling or couples therapy?
We definitely did. Yeah. Definitely did pre and during. Yeah.
Good for y'all in the pre.
So I should be clear premarital counseling,
Mhm.
lots of counseling, couples counseling throughout, as well as I did individual counseling as well throughout.
Wow, that's amazing because, and this is an assumption that most people have, is you do the pre-check, right? I don't think people anticipate that you're gonna have to do kind of tune-ups
Hmm.
in the marriage and the continuing of the marriage. I think there are many times where you do the pre, you get into it, you try to solve it, and many times people think that, okay, well, we did pre, let's go back.
Yeah,
Like, okay, we need actual
yeah.
support now.
You know what? I just think there's so many. I think the pre is as helpful or impactful as the two people coming to it like a serious. It's going to work as well as like you want it to work.
Yep.
So I think if you have two people that are very seriously coming to premarital counseling to get these tools, and if you have a premarital counselor that is equipped to give you the tools, sometimes
Right.
like the person that's marrying you or the church that just requires it, to use
Mhm.
the service or whatever. So it's like you definitely have to have a qualified person and you have to have two willing participants that are really taking this in and they're making this the framework and the foundation of their marriage because I see that premarital counseling piece is like giving you the tools that
Mhm.
you're going to use to operate in your marriage. So if you don't get those tools there, it definitely makes it hard to navigate because things will naturally occur. You do need to have those tools. I don't know that premarital always equips everyone with the right tools.
True. I think I don't remember where I heard this from that, like, you get married based on who you think that other person is. But when you get married and you start living with a person, it kind of feels like a completely different person. It's like you get to the altar, it's like, okay, I'm committing. It's like blind faith. I'm committing to what I know and some of what I don't know.
Mm,
In a sense, and the commitment and the covenant is for the what I don't know
yeah.
of it. And I'm only saying this now because I'm evolved and we've grown, but I definitely didn't think about it in that way. I thought like, okay, I know my story is a little different because I knew I just didn't have the courage to stop it.
Mm,
I knew I shouldn't be getting married, but I still didn't say anything. I just was like, well, we're just doing it. It's
yeah.
almost too late now, right? So, and again, that's why I love these conversations because everyone's story is so different. And even
Yeah.
the story that it is just so nuanced in what actually happens. A lot of people are like, well, what happened? I
Hmm.
love what you said about it wasn't this one thing. It was a culmination of many different things. And in that, again, evolution of understanding, you recognize, yeah, this isn't going to last long, right? Which I think is just so okay for people to recognize and hear
Yeah.
that just because you made this decision, it's okay, the decision you made, it's okay to change it. Not
Yeah.
change your mind because it's like, oh, like the wind, but if you've
Yeah.
done all you can, and for me too, it took a lot of courage for me to say, yeah, we might need to start thinking about divorce.
Right. And I always tell people if I had to blame someone, I would just say like I not really blame, but I'm like I look at me because that was like the most kind of eye-opening forward moving way for me to look at this because I really have to take accountability for decisions I made, actions, inactions, and my role in those things because I think that if you constantly make it about another person, they did this and they did that. I mean, if someone like embezzled money and like almost got you arrested, like that's a very clear thing.
Yeah.
But I think comes down to communication and emotional and irreconcilable differences, I had to just say, like, again, looking at the accountability, my action or inaction, because otherwise, if it's the other person, then like the next person can come and do it to me. It's like I'm just like reacting to anything everyone does to me. And that's not where I see myself in life. And that's not where I want to be. So that's why I feel like I fully accept responsibility for the dissolving of that situation, because I had action, I had inaction, I made certain choices, and I need to now be aware of those things and choose differently, not act differently. Otherwise, it's like, oh, that person crazy. They did this, they did that, and it's like you're kind of at the whim of everything someone does to you, and that's not giving you control of your life.
That's true. That's so good. That's so good. So, in the 4-year process of the divorce, where did you get the understanding of what the process was? What did let's
Honestly, it's very much a shit show. Like I went through a couple of attorneys. I just thank God that like the thing ended and got through it, but there were so many things that could have been done differently, but I guess it ended the way that it was supposed to end, but the process is all again completely new to you. And
Yeah.
never been through this, so you don't know what to ask, not ask. You can do your research, but it's still a completely new process, like rule of law and court proceedings and all these things. And we look at these attorneys as like these gods, and they're basically like they're well trained people, but they're also following formulas and templates, and they're protecting their relationships with maybe the judge that they have to appear before another time, or maybe before a high case. There's just so much going on.
Mhm.
It's not a fun thing. It's not.
It's not. I found similar. Well, I stopped for a lot of it.
Mhm.
In hindsight, so 2020, because one of the attorneys I spoke to, I quoted verbatim. They told me, "Well, it's cheaper to keep them,"
Mm.
and that kept me frozen. I would say for 4 years
Wow.
because okay. But
Mm.
that also was such anxiety in what that meant, at
Mhm.
least the meaning I assigned to it, that I
Yeah.
was not willing to explore another option. Actually, I didn't even know other options existed. I
Mhm.
just took this lawyer's counsel as law, but I also had some internal turmoil going on in like what I believe that meant
Mhm.
emotionally, financially, physically, that I just stopped.
Mhm.
And in the stopping, what I was doing to my inner self, well,
Mhm.
I felt like I was in prison. I felt like I had no options. And the trying to solve things in my head just became too much. So
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why there's a resource hub now that I offer for
Mhm.
people to live, because at least it unpacks some of the things. It gives steps. It gives
Yeah.
not a formula, but at least a blueprint of some of the things to consider and have
Mhm.
in the divorce process. But
Yeah.
it also is such a traumatic thing to have happen.
Mhm.
And depending on the situation, it could be a myriad amount of things to solve for.
I agree with you there.
Yeah. But you said COVID. So my COVID divorce story may be different than your COVID divorce story, since you're the guest. What was that like for you?
Delays, lots of delays. Like things were just beginning to go virtual. So just delays on top of delays on top.
Mhm. Yeah. It I don't know if it was delays because we did mediation. It was almost silent. It was like just papers, the paralegal did the thing, the legal
Yeah.
people did the thing, and it was just done via phone.
Okay.
It's
And
very
the
been
courts were
interesting.
backlogged too. I don't know if that
Mhm.
was in your county, but in my county, the courts were incredibly backlogged due to, so that was a big problem as well. So things on top of delays, things just be like stretched out. Like normally you would have this, it would maybe normally be like 4 weeks from this hearing to that hearing. Now it's like 12 weeks because backlogged.
Now, what was your internal dialogue like during that process? What did you do to take care of self in that process?
Again, a sliding scale. I mean, I
Uh,
so many different phases of like things that helped. I was like really into reflexology at one point. I would go into like these Chinese massage places and just get my little like foot massage and all of these things. I mean, I wish I could tell you that I had these really established self-care practices. I just literally stumbled upon reflexology one day. I was in the city. I had like hours between a press event. I'm like, I could get something to eat or have a drink. I'm like, but that's like 2 hours. Like, what am I gonna do? And I just walked by this reflexology place. I'm like, oh, let me try this. And I tried it, and I swear it was just like it cleansed my soul. I was in therapy at that time, but I didn't have like a very established self-care practice. Honestly, throwing myself in work was a part of it. I just worked one because I had to. Well, not one, but in no particular order. I had to, and I really enjoy my work. So I definitely threw myself into work and focused a lot there as well. I hate to sound like a lot of it is a blur, but to be very open, some of it is a blur. I know like going through it, I had really, really, really hard days. It just felt very, even I had like a very good community of friends and family, people were really supported. I just felt like so, like just kind of knotted in my stomach all the time. And I knew that it would pass and I knew that I would get to the other side, but it was just like, Jesus, when will I get there? And like how, how long am I gonna feel this way? You
no, don't I know? I'll never forget this one day. And you talk about a knot in your stomach and the when, and it just comes, it's just a wave.
Mhm.
I was working on 7th Avenue, headed to my job, and all of a sudden I had a breakdown in the middle of 27th and 7th. And I remember
Wow.
because I went to school at FIT. It wasn't like even a cute like shimmy cry. It was like I stopped walking.
Wow.
And this is kind of in the beginning of the process where I don't think we even have actually said the D word before, right? I think I was in the process of recognizing and realizing it's over.
Hmm.
And because I am the person that usually takes the steps and make the moves, I felt like it was my decision to divorce. So I recognized and realized to be able to get out of this feeling,
Hmm.
I had to take the first step. And that was such a hard
Hmm.
realization that it shocked me, and that's essentially what stopped me in the middle of the Times I wouldn't say Times Square 'cause it's Midtown, but, like,
Hmm.
and it will also felt like I was wrecking our lives collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever feel any kind of internal guilt in
No.
that? Okay. Yeah.
No, that's one area where I felt very assured that this was the right thing for the family structure.
Mhm.
Felt like two separate, joyful, happy, healthy parents would be a better situation than two that were incongruent in the same house. I never felt like, oh, I'm blowing up, but no, that I did not struggle with that.
No, that's amazing. When I think back, and I hear you on the blur, maybe that's intentional and almost kind of, how they say you forget about childbirth.
God's protection serious. Like some of it, like I there really is a lot of blur, excuse me, but there is so much blur. Like I hope I don't come across as being like cagey or don't want to say any things that I just like I really do thank God for the blur. But I do know that like going through it again, I had like one attorney had to fire that attorney, get to another attorney, wanted to fire that. I was just like, I was just like sick in my so many times. But I am so grateful that the blur exists.
I don't think I've ever talked about the blur. So thank you for bringing that up because that's also nuance because yes, that is a protection,
Yeah.
but I also want people to know that that's actually normal.
Yes.
If you're in this situation, it will get better. We promise it gets better. It feels yucky right now. Yes, that's my college word, but it does get better. But there are key, vivid moments that I remember being decisive because now I knew myself.
Mm.
And one of the moments You're gonna laugh at this, or maybe not, because it was
I don't want to hear this one.
and it's just like we were going through the process. We're in mediation now. And I think I was going through like our finances, making the decision whether or not we're going to sell the house or keep the house. And I may have been going to see a place, see another place. And I was backing out the driveway. And I thought, what if I just never came back? Like I was wearing a red coat. It was cold. And I looked at the house and I was like, what if I just never came back?
Wow.
Because it was just such a down time. I was just
Yeah.
so sad. The knot was there.
Hmm.
I was driving to figure out where we're gonna live,
Yeah.
I remember it was like, girl, you crazy, keep going. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that was a real thought in my head. And I'm like, well, where we gonna go? You can't have these kids. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
about that. But I remember that so vividly. And I don't even hear people talking about a lot of the down.
Hmm.
A lot of and it's blurred now because we've gotten past it, and it
Yeah.
helped us understand so much about ourselves. And for the person who's listening, who's feeling this way, I encourage you to sit there though and unpack what brought you to that place. What
Hmm.
choices, some accountability you have to take. What choices did you intend, or what choices did you make that got you to there? Unpack that and the meaning of that, because
Hmm.
going to help you identify your next. That's also going to help you understand who you are.
Yeah.
Again, going back to identity and understanding what you want
Right.
and what you don't want.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I say that accountability is really important because it helps you to understand your own involvement in it and how you avoid involving yourself in that way in future situations, and not just in romantic relationships, but just in general, because it might be decisions you made based on a corrupted value system, like something you value that like maybe you shouldn't value, you know? So I feel like those lessons can be applicable across many aspects of your life. That accountability is key.
So huge, huge. A good friend of mine, and she was on the show, talked about having a board of directors across any area of your life, right? A lot of these companies have board of directors. You have a board of directors of your life. And I love that. I can't say I ever had board of directors who really knew me.
Hmm.
And then if I brought a person or a friend in to be like, girl, that's not you, you
Mm.
know? And so now I have board of directors across all areas of my life because one, I don't necessarily know if I trust my gut yet. Like I'm learning in this new stage in my life as I relearn some of the things I hold true.
Yeah.
That level of accountability is like, this is what I want now. And if it doesn't look like what I've stated, I encourage my board of directors to speak into, and I've given them the authority to and permission to be like, you remember when you said that?
Hmm.
Line it up with like line it up. It's like a cute way that they check me, which sometimes I can't stand. But that level of accountability is also needed as you move through the process to get to the other side, which
Yeah.
I want to go into next. Finish the
No,
thought.
I was just gonna say I think good counsel is important. It takes a village, and I do think it is important to have good counsel, particularly as you said, if it's an area where you feel like you need help exercising that muscle until you're strong, you're able to make those decisions. You have confidence in your ability. Good counsel is important, but emphasis on good counsel.
Emphasis, stamp, double click, highlight, all the things. So go through the divorce, and we don't want to breeze through it. It's a sucky time. Talk to me about the light at the end of the tunnel and the decision to try again.
The decision to try again. I don't know exactly when I got to a point where I knew I wanted to try again, but I did get to a point where I knew I wanted to try again. There wasn't like this magical moment, but I did get to a point. There were kind of two parts. Like one, I knew I wanted to try again. I knew that I wanted to date. I knew that I wanted partnership. I didn't know that I necessarily wanted marriage again. And I always joke with people, I kind of felt like you like back in the day, like the 19, like these husbands, like if they lost their wife, they're like, we need another wife in here to take care of these kids. I was like, I need another parent up in this bitch. I'm do all this on my own. So I think that's something I was intentional about. That I did want partnership. I feel like I wanted to do this alone. I didn't want to like go at it alone. I wasn't trying to be every woman. I did not feel like it was all in me. So that was something that I was clear on. That that would lead to marriage, or that I wanted marriage, that I wasn't sure of. But then once I started dating and met the person that I eventually married, I was very clear that I did want to be married. Yeah.
Now, what if I were to say value system and checkbox things, what in the previous and the now were different in partnership?
It would be unfair to compare the two.
Mhm.
But if I had to kind of contrast, I would say, and this is in like a very generic way, there was experience and inexperience. Like,
Good.
so inexperienced in the beginning. And I really think that our ideas of like marriage and relationship and partnering, those things are just really, really inexperienced. They weren't vetted, tried, like they were not battle tested. So it really was a recipe for, the opposite of longevity. But we were
Yeah.
so committed to kind of trying to figure it out as we went along. But with my second marriage, we had the benefit of experience,
Mhm.
of being married, because he's divorced as well, parenting, he's a parent as well. So, community, friendships, the village concept, like we both at that point had such deep experience in those two things. So, it makes for a really fun, healthy, happy, full marriage. So,
Love that.
that's probably like the biggest comparison and contrast is you had complete inexperience and
Mhm.
through battle scars. Like if I could have got it without the battle scars, that would have
I
been.
mean, right?
But sometimes the only way through it is it. So inexperience versus experience.
Now, what were some of the things you were looking for though after I don't want inexperience. I want an individual who has these things. What kinds of things were you looking for in partnership?
I know that family is very important to me. So someone with a strong North Star for family,
Mhm.
community. That was very, very important to me. Definitely a parent, someone with children, and honestly, someone who had been married. Because I think when you're married and you have children, you understand where, like, if you have a new partner, you understand where the children come in their lives and why the children are, a top priority. You get that. If someone like at that point I was in my mid 40s, so I felt like meeting someone who had not had the experience of parenting or marriage, we are going to be completely incongruent. Like you don't understand why this thing is important as a parent and why I'm unavailable, or why this plan changed or that plan changed.
Yeah.
That was something that was really important to me. Someone with an eye and a heart for family and had experience in being a parent. Those things are really important to me at that stage. And also, like working cooperatively, that was something that was really, really important to me. Someone that felt fun and energetic and, I don't want to say easy, but there would be like an ease to the relationship.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, 100%, 100%. Because I think there's this notion of understanding you,
Hmm.
understanding what you can tolerate and what you can't.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people think that they see something if you're inexperienced, and I love this word inexperienced. I don't want to say not married, inexperienced in a long-term relationship of what that should look like,
Hmm.
and your expectations of what that should looks like changes with experience because yep, the
Right.
new
'Cause
one,
I don't
the
need nobody without kids telling me nothing about my kid. Like, please.
I love how you did the neck with that. So let's talk about, your new love. Let's talk about some of the exciting things that you've done. I want to give you the floor to talk a little bit more about the evolution of you, the evolution of your business, and the evolution of being an author, which is newest.
Dad.
So yeah, so like the chapter after the glow up, as many will say. And I actually had to get glowed up because I know y'all, I'm on, and if you guys don't know Felicia Walker, you should follow her at This That Beauty. All of my beauty advice comes from her. My skin is looking skinnish, it's giving supple because everything she puts on her socials, I'm buying. I blame you, ma'am, for my Sephora binge.
I love that.
So talk a little bit more about your new chapter and some of the projects you got going on.
Sure. Well, I love Liv that my new chapter, like my work always feels like a continuation for me,
Mhm.
like a build, and the glow up just kind of keeps glowing. So currently, well, most recently in March of this year, I released my book. It's called Your Glow Guide. It is an interactive skincare workbook that teaches you how to become the expert on your own skin. My work has always been this intersection of education, skincare, and self care. And this book is fully representative of that. And my work is always filled in a white space. So, like when I first started blogging years ago, there really wasn't anything or not much on the internet that really spoke to uh, skincare product formulation, particularly as it relates to dark skin. There were just like a few of us online doing
Mhm.
huge white space. And now we have lots of products and people are the experts on products, but I feel like we have no more education on our skin, what works for us. So my book is really about helping the beauty lover become the beauty expert on their own skin.
Love, love, love that. I also have tried your masks. You want to talk a little bit about your masks? I came to the launch of that, and I like got every. I have a problem.
I love those masks. So Phoebe's
They're so good.
Yes, Phoebe Skin is my collection of skincare masks. So the biggest skincare issue that I encountered when I started in the industry and 20 years later, we're still talking about hyperpigmentation. My collection of skincare masks cover the full life cycle of hyperpigmentation. So it's three masks. So it's not an overwhelming collection of products, and it really is designed to address the full life cycle. So there's Stay Calm, which is a calming mask. It's a rose gel based mask. And we know that inflammation is the start of pimples, lines, everything that we see on the surface. So Stay Chill helps to calm the skin, but should you get the pimple, we have Stay Bright, which helps to remove the hyperpigmentation. This is a dry base mask. It's dry. It's got pumpkin clay, kaolin clay, vitamin C, pumpkin enzyme, and this helps with hyperpigmentation. Then the second mask is called Stay Tight because, as you know, a lot of times once you get rid of this spot, you might have a little rough texture there, little dark patches. And so Stay Tight is a tightening and resurfacing mask, which helps to resurface the texture of the skin to get it nice and smooth again. So these three masks cover the full life cycle of hyperpigmentation, and I love them. They're super effective. They do really, really well in spas. I have them in spas, med spas, aesthetic spas. I would love to get them back out direct to consumer. I'm going to need a little more money for that.
That's right. Manifesting money. Amen.
So we're all completely self funded over here.
Yep, 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 yep. And I think what I want to make sure we're connecting, there's the divorce, separation, law side of things, but there's the whole other woman who sometimes gets neglected because you're so focused. If you're a single individual, no child in the marriage, then is one aspect. If you're a mom
Mhm.
trying to solve for, well, usually, and this is a sin that we all commit, not putting yourself first and putting everybody else first, your skin and your skincare routine and just your whole self suffers from that. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up and why I love, love, love Felicia is the education aspect of it, but also the connection with what's going on internally comes out in your skin. And the last thing you want is people like, girl, you look a mess. What's going on? So even if you're going through divorce, you don't need to look like you're going through what you know what I mean? Like, so you need to make sure you're thinking about holistic care
Mhm.
for yourself as you're in this journey. And so that's important to drink your water, mind your business, find your community, you know.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I can tell you transparently, there were times that I looked like what I was going through. Like I look back at pictures, I'm like, woo, you were looking a little, whether I lost a lot of weight or gained a bunch of weight or the skin, like you're just looking like you can see it like in your eyes. So I mean, I think it's part of the process over the course of our discussion. Sometimes, the only way through it is through it. Those times are going to come, but they will eventually become more and more of a blur. And I think over time you can look at it with a more optimistic lens and a more open heart, and where you don't feel that visceral, like, oh, this is my God. Like, you get will get to that point.
I agree.
Take some of us a little longer than others, but you will definitely get to that point. And if you're feeling beat up and run down, that's okay. Like that's part of it. Like, I think I look pretty good now, but trust me, I had my days, weeks, months where I remember at one point a friend had to literally call to schedule a therapist for me because I kept saying, I will, I will, I will. And she was like, you're going to crack. This needs to get done. And the first thing the therapist said when she sat me down was like, your friend really loves you and cares for you a lot. Like, this is the first time I've ever had a friend call in and say, look, I need to make this appointment for my friend. So I don't want it to seem like things are, you're like this shiny brand new thing and you're going to kind of always feel this way. It is really hard. It will be hard. Know that, but you will get through it. You will definitely get through it.
Shout out to that friend because you just need one or two. Let's be so for real. I think the older I'm getting, the smaller the circle becomes because you really just need one or two because I think there's an aspect of the unbreaking and the roughness of this time where you have to feel safe enough to break and to change and involve in front of some of the people that if you're not feeling safe, you're not going to unravel in the same way. And I feel like that unraveling is so needed because that's how you're going to learn the tough lessons.
Hmm.
You have to, that's just, we're not going to make it pretty. You're good. There's some things that you have to work through if you're in this
Hmm.
mother. Yes,
Yep.
something happened to you. Yes, there's blame to be said, but there's still lessons
Yeah.
that the accountability aspect of it that you're going to have to sit with. And I
Yeah.
love, love, love that your friend saw the opportunity and the desire and the need to be able to go to a professional therapist. Because I think there's one thing to have your girls, but then there's like the professionals who are going to say, okay, let's unpack how you got here and let's unpack and help you get to your next. That's so vital because for me, like I needed help with trying to put me first. If that sounds nuts, but I was still trying to figure out how he was gonna make it and how the kids were gonna do. And I was last, and she pushed me to be like, "Well, if you pass out and if you die, what's the point of all of this?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and you have to realize at the end of the day, it's your life, and you only get one, and you have to decide how you want to live it. Like, what do you want out of this thing? And I know for me, being 50, you realize you're like, okay, 30 plus 30 is 60. People live to be 60. 40 plus 40 is 80. Okay, right. But when you're at 50, you're like, you get one life and you have to decide like what is it that you want out of it, and you can kind of sit in that and stew, or you can say, what, this is my life. I really need to take some active involvement and change some things around and decide this is what I want out of the rest of my life. I can person, or I can be like, what, it was all my fault, I did this, or take that accountability and just keep, even if you fall, just keep falling forward, just move your life forward.
Love that, and it feels like such kind of a great place to kind of end our conversation, which I can't believe that it's ending. I think one of the things that I'd like to ask you around just the whole process, and you may have already said it, when I think about a lived truth, or when I think about the lessons learned, what would you say is your number one lived truth that you want to bless our community?
My lived
Yeah,
truth.
a lived truth. The one thing that you want individuals to take away about either the process, or both.
That's a really big question. In this moment, I feel like saying to be true to yourself. But even in saying that, I think that sometimes like you really, really, really gotta get deep and dirty with yourself about what you need, not just like what's the truth, like, on the podcast with Liv, like what I really want out of life. Really, 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 really honest with yourself, like being true to yourself, what you want, what you value, what's important to you. Because again, at the end of the day, it's just you. Like you can't bullshit yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and if you are, you're not, getting what you could be getting out of life. So I guess it's that old saying, like, to thine own self be true. So that nugget, just like really, really be true to yourself, truly true to yourself.
Yeah, and such a full circle moment from the beginning of our conversation around that importance of stillness
Mm.
and quieting the noise. And I know, and this goes back to the hot takes part, right? Like, people are so inundated with social and what's happening, etc. And then I find it's hard to get quiet
Yeah.
Nothing is in the car because I need to get quiet and hear my own thoughts versus what's coming from all the different places to be able to say, do I really?
Yeah. I will get quiet in a minute. I will chop vegetables. I will like scrub a sink. I'll go for a walk. I will get quiet in a minute.
Mhm, mhm. I love those examples. So tell me other things you do. So you go for a walk. I love the chopped vegetables. I hope you're cooking. What you just chopping
Yeah,
the vegetables?
like I'll just start like cooking something from scratch. I always say like I'm chopping when I really should be in therapy, but sometimes I just need like repetitive motion of doing things just to, kind of free up my mind. Sometimes it is going for a walk. Sometimes it's just checking out of the things for a couple of days where I just roam free and let ideas come in. I'm not afraid of that. I used to be afraid of like logging off or like taking the time to do that because downtime feels like you're not being productive. I've learned and I just see it with myself that when I do that, like the idea just boom boom like oh my god I can't believe I didn't think of this and I know this person oh my god and then it starts flowing like I have to do that and I do that on a regular basis. I'm kicking myself about an event I didn't go to recently but I was just like I don't have the bandwidth like I really just need the time to be a little bit still and figure some things out and just kind of let ideas flow. So I can't overstate the importance of that.
That. And for me, it was really hard to be honest with myself about what I wanted.
Mhm.
And it took a long time to get there.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to think like this is like a rush job. And it evolves and it changes,
Yeah.
but I definitely know my knots. And I
Yeah.
definitely would say that I know myself
Yeah.
and the continuing knowing. And I also now know my gut and
Mhm.
trust my gut. I think a lot of the times, and what I'm realizing now as I continue to kind of work on myself, is that inner voice. I didn't trust that inner voice. And the reason I didn't trust that inner voice, one, I didn't give her space to
Mhm.
talk. Two, I hadn't built that muscle to say, oh, that's my gut, that's my instinct, that's my conscience talking to me and trusting that,
Yeah.
feeding that, and then listening for her
Yeah.
and then trusting her.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I say, like, be true to yourself, especially Black women.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're afraid, even to our friends and our closest circles, we're afraid to say the things that we want. I think being my age, I have the benefit of women like being really transparent with me at like their late 40s. And they're like, I forgot to have a baby. Like, I really wanted a family, but they didn't want to say it because maybe they didn't see it like the possibilities around them and decided to really like drill down on career super hard because that's like celebrated and that's fine, but maybe they really did want a baby, but because it didn't seem possible, you didn't talk about it. I'll just be like rich auntie. And now I see like that used to be like a 35-ish thing. Now you have like women in their teens saying they want to be rich aunties because maybe, I don't know, the dating pool has piss in it. But the thing is, if that's what you want, you have to be true to yourself and still say that. But they won't even say it to their friends because everyone's like, rich auntie, I did it. And it's like, but if that's the thing you want. So that's why I say, like, it's really important to be true to yourself and what it is that you want. If you want partnership, if you want certain things, like, you have to be really honest about with yourself, and especially Black women, because I think we allow society and even like our friends and our circle to kind of paint what we want or don't want from our lives, when at the end of the day it's you who's sitting there at whatever age not having the thing that you really wanted because you went through with yourself.
And I think at this age too, you realize the importance of those decisions. You also recognize the impact. At least I also have to think about my daughter. What am I showing her? I'm
Mm-hmm.
a little afraid of her and this new generation of just like they say the thing. Like you almost kind of like, well, you're too young, but who says if you already kind of know a little bit, my daughter kind of has an idea of
Mm-hmm.
who she is already. And I'm just so proud of her for just kind of being just so like I mean, there's still room for her to grow.
Yeah,
I wasn't empowered to be able to be vocal about some of the things that I knew about myself, but afraid to say because of what others may think of what that means, you know?
right. Yeah.
So that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's true. Now they have the language, they have the words that
Mhm.
identify it. I think where I get like where I roll my eyes as a parent is like that language then becomes their identity. I'm like, no, girl, you can still move beyond this. Like
Yeah,
I da 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 da, but you can still move beyond this. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
becomes my frustration as a parent in the current age of so much information. But I do like seeing young women have agency being able to say the things out loud. That is very important.
Well, Felicia, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for all of, you know what I can say about you is that you've always been, and now I can say I've known Felicia for how long has it been?
Oh my gosh, it's been a long
It's
time.
been a very long time. We both are in the industry together.
Hmm.
You mentioned blogging, which I remember blogs being like, we were like, what is this blog thing we're used to dealing with?
And believe it or not, blogs have made a
They
comeback.
have, they have, and there's so many platforms now.
Mad money off of Substack, so blogs have definitely come back long form. And people are looking for it.
I mean, I think that goes back to the whole nostalgia. Even if we think about shows that were good that are now coming back, like what goes around comes around, right? And it's just so I'm so grateful for you saying yes to
Oh,
sharing.
what I say?
Oh, thank you. But I mean, it is a sensitive topic, and sometimes people don't want to talk about their quote unquote mistakes, the business out here. And for me, my friends who are saying yes to this, I just value them so much more. I mean, it shows me who they are to me. And I just want to extend my gratitude to you for saying yes and for, taking time to just have this conversation.
Of course. One thing I'll touch on that you just said about like sharing your mistakes, and again, I don't know if this is an age or wisdom thing, but I have become such a mistake sharer, and I think that there's so much power and help in that. So I
Yeah.
feel you have to be transparent with your pain points, your struggles, because you don't know who's going to be in a position to help you. And I always use the example of my daughter was really struggling in math, and like everyone's like, "How's people?" I was like, "Girl, you got F in math." By the time told like the sixth or seventh person, someone like recommended a tutor who's been amazing, and she really connects with this tutor and is really helping to turn around her situation. So I feel that we can't let our mistakes build this little prison for us, that we just stay locked in and don't share those mistakes, because your pain points, your mistakes, your struggle, like you never know where your help will come from. So I think we have to be transparent about those things.
And thus the reason for the Lived Stories podcast and the Lived website and community for that exact time. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for my listeners who are tuning in, and cheers to living. Take care.